put up the chat at all.
All right.
Unless-
Are we okay, Jeremy?
Yep, you're good.
All right. I want to welcome everyone. This is the first meeting of the year for the Bylaws Committee. I'm Sandra Unger, the chair, and let everyone
No,
else.
I'm Joanne Rubino, co-chair.
Ellie Rodriguez, new member.
Ken Gelnick, also a new member of this committee.
Right, and I want to thank Ken and Evie or Ellie for being here and giving us the legal terminology that we may need. And I want to thank Debbie for being the IT person.
And the non-voting committee member Bernadette Ferrara,
You know, you're also the chairman, so that's it.
but non-voting.
All right, so we got the introductions out of the way. The meeting minutes we don't have because they were never done and
Do we want to introduce other people in the room?
yeah, we will. Okay, go, yes, go ahead. I can introduce yourselves.
Roger McCrossan, the sanitation and environmental co-chair.
Cynthia Rodriguez, board member. Christine Culpepper, board member.
The Press Community Board resident.
Thank you. And I want to thank you all for being here. I know that people were concerned about certain things being on the agenda, off the agenda. We worked with what we were given and we're trying our best and we're, as I said, a work in progress. All right, I'm going to read the conduct statement first. Thank you. Community board meetings, community board 11 meetings must be held in a professional and hostile-free environment. The following rules of conduct are applicable to members of the public, community board 11 and the community board staff. Any action or behavior that disrupts or interferes with community board business will not be tolerated during any community board 11 meeting and may result in the individual or individuals being asked to leave. If the action or behavior continues, this may be considered disturbing the peace and the appropriate authorities may be summoned. If the meeting is held remotely, the person may be muted or expelled for the remainder. Repeated violations by the same person or group of people may result in further action by the community board. All public speakers must address the full board or the committee with their concerns or electioneering for a position other than an officer of Community Board 11 is prohibited. Engaging in acts of violence, including threats, are grounds for immediate suspension of the right to attend meetings pending review by the Ethics and Disciplinary Committee. Respect the equality, diversity, and privacy of all persons by respecting and evaluating differences of culture and opinions. Refrain from unpleasant or disparaging remarks and other actions. Abstain from all forms of harassment by actively discouraging it. Disassembling false information is prohibited. So that's the thing. All right. Firstly, I know that originally when the agenda was posted, there was a proposal by Veronica. She asked that we not look at it today because she is not here to discuss it with us. Okay?
We have someone else who came in.
Oh, excuse me, someone else came in. Miguel,
Introduce yourself.
you want to say who you?
Hi, I'm Miguel, community board member.
Okay. All right, thank you. All right, so we are doing that. Bylaw, all right, so we're going to start with the proposed bylaw amendments. The first one was combine the sanitation, environmental protection, and transportation committees.
Is that a proposal or that's just something we're supposed to
I
discuss?
think it's just, it was just
It's just
discussion.
discuss. It's just a
In
discussion.
discussion.
No, it was a
No,
proposal.
it
It
was-
was a proposal.
It was a proposal.
Yes,
It's not
we
that.
want it.
Who amended
No, I'm
bylaws.
not saying that.
Who made it? I don't even, well, I don't know who made the
I
proposal.
made the motion.
All right,
Okay.
oh, okay.
All right.
Roger, we have never, to me, and I think, I don't know what the rest, I had asked, or we had asked Ellie, and he wrote that there is no prohibition against more than one committee holding a joint meeting when a common issue arises.
Right.
I don't know what all the to me, I don't know about the rest of you. How do you feel? What common issues could arise?
Well, I don't see, I don't know if sanitation, environmental protection and transportation have always have something in common.
Common.
I mean,
It's
maybe
totally,
explain.
yeah, because I'm on transportation and
just
I've
explain.
been asking for this for quite some
Right.
time.
All right, but,
And CB10 does have theirs combined.
right, but why?
When you're alternate side of the street, those laws is what falls under sanitation, yes?
Yes,
Yes,
But it's affecting what? Your car. It's transportation. So a lot of things between the sanitation and the transportation have been coinciding. And it's like, oh, well, then we should bring it to this committee. Oh, then we should bring, and it's things are taking way too long instead of just having them jointly. And especially since people on sanitation and people on transportation, and the portion of them are on both, so why?
oh, so you would like to see it done?
Yes,
All right, and I'll just read the
Can I read
rest.
it? May I read it?
Yeah, go right ahead.
Because you're a part of it. and I
Right,
think
I think I was gonna
you
go
should
on,
read the
but go
whole
right
thing to
ahead.
Make it comprehensive. There is no prohibition against more than one committee holding a joint meeting when a common issue arises. A joint meeting shall be held when the chairperson of each joining committee agrees to such meeting. Joint meetings do not create a permanent obligation, and the frequency is determined by the joining committees based on a mutual agreement. It takes into account what you want, but it doesn't create a permanent arrangement. If there's issues that are in common and the chair of each committee agrees that meeting should be held jointly, and then it can be. And it can be like that for every single meeting if the chair people agree to do that. But it doesn't have to be a permanent thing. If one chairperson doesn't want to have a meeting with the sanitation committee, they should have the freedom to do that. But at the same time, the bylaws will give the joining committees chance to meet jointly. So it gives you what you want if the chairperson of each wants to do that, but it doesn't make it a permanent obligation.
why not? Basically, almost every, I looked through just the Bronx. I didn't go into Manhattan or all the other boroughs. Basically, almost every community board in the Bronx has they call it municipality, which is transportation and sanitation together.
so how would that, how would that affect the chair and the co-chair? Would that eliminate one of the chairs? And
Why-
which one?
Yeah, because
So-
now it becomes one committee. Or
So if
one,
it's once, and then you take the chair of one and the chair of the other, and then they just co-chairs together.
So, okay,
no, they can't be coach, but someone still has to be the leader.
there still has to be a chair and a co-chair.
There has to be a chair and a co-chair.
Well, maybe those two can discuss who wants to be hot, you know.
It might cause a conflict.
Go right ahead.
Okay, so Roger, because your sanitation, has this, my question is, this been discussed within transportation? Has this been discussed in sanitation? And has there been a vote to say, yes, we want this with the chairs and co-chairs and everything? Because that's not written anywhere.
Right.
So in some of the sanitation meetings, when the alternate side of the street parking issue came up, it's a sanitation issue. Debbie's mentioned it for at least the past 2 years.
Debbie, I have a question. if I may.
Yes.
Sorry, I thought it's done.
So that's the first time that I heard about it.
Right.
And then, Avril asked me to make the motion before she left the general board meeting. And it, yeah, and it was, not necessarily something that I wanted, but it's something that I've heard from the community saying that.
Well,
you know,
have
have it done.
I'm sorry, have the subject matters in the past, since January, whatever, have the subject matters overlapped in every month or every other month where you could see that? I haven't done that homework, so that's what I'm asking.
And I have another question, Debbie. You're on the committee, but you are not the chairperson, correct? How would, I think the rabbi is the chairperson, correct?
Rabbi,
how would he feel about having the
He,
joint
he was
meeting?
fine with it.
Well,
Hazel at the last full board was like, oh, I didn't hear, this is the first, I don't know.
Was there a vote taken was there a vote ever taken with, I don't seem to remember the.
I
vote
don't,
taken
well,
with
you're talking
There
about-
wasn't a vote, there was a discussion and, well,
It should be, it should be,
Well, the reason I brought it up is because I read the bylaws, and it's a standing committee, so you can't just say, oh, let's combine it. You have to go to bylaws and say, are we gonna combine these two standing committees? And when you're looking at the community development and budget priorities, there's 7 policy areas. One of them is core infrastructure and city services. And a lot of the other community boards, that's pretty much just a committee. So combining them would make less meetings that we would have to attend.
that's.
yeah,
I
that's,
can
that's,
respect
that's,
And more of the likelihood that you will have a quorum,
Yeah,
because did you have quorum the last time?
I don't think so.
One, right?
but
and that's a problem
I
because,
can't speak for Avril, I can speak for myself, if it's about, that there would be too many chairs, I'm more than willing to give it up. If you.
all right, I have
Not
another,
an issue for me at all.
question.
Get
You're-
stuff done.
if you're worried about quorums, and now you have a larger number, and you still didn't get the quorums for each individual
not
committee,
necessarily a
I'm
larger
just-
number,
I'm-
because if you,
Take a vote.
you have to take a vote.
no, I know, but
I'm
you're,
just
you're
asking,
saying
let me finish.
you have a group A and a group B. But the problem is,
But now
is
group A
that
and B are
some,
combined.
yeah, if A and B are combined, some of the people that in group A are also on group B. So
Well,
you're
sure.
now lowering that number.
All right, I have a scenario. So what happens if,
What's that
the-
called?
they're joined? How? Excuse me?
No, I said, is that called, I was saying, is that called a Venn diagram? Where you
Yeah,
basically got,
Yeah,
you got the.
yeah,
The
with the
stuff.
middle. But how
So-
many?
So what happens if, say the next 3 months, you've got, it's definitely sanitation, it's a sanitation issue. Then the people in, transportation have to come to a mandated joint meeting where it doesn't really involve them. So it's sort of like, if their category was, it's almost like transportation. If there seems to be the next 3 months of sanitation issues where it's definitely that, and then you've got to come to a meeting where that was not your priority. Had it been a joint category of concern where you could say, okay, November, we're gonna have a joint meeting because we're gonna be discussing something that involves transportation and instead of having an option, it's mandating it. I'm just wondering what's.
a lot of times sanitation is canceled because they don't have anything to much discuss.
So that's allowed, you're allowed
Right,
not to have a meeting,
Yeah.
but now you're making those people
Well,
on
that's not happening.
sanitation now, if it's combined, come to that meeting. Yes, you want to lessen the number of meetings, but now they're obligated to help make that quorum if it's combined. Do you,
Another scenario.
that's another scenario, but
Well, if you're gonna do that, you're gonna probably wanna have, not everybody who's on both committees be on this combined committee. You're gonna have to have a new committee being formed for this one.
Right,
If they- if
it
they
would
would
be,
do it.
it would be a joint, but it might
It will-
need to be renamed.
No, and also not everybody would want to be on the joint committee.
The only people who aren't in favor are the chairs.
Okay,
Rabbi's
so,
in favor, was
You
fine
what?
with it, yeah. Hazel's the one that, oh, this is the
But-
first I heard of
but the
it,
committee
but as you
members-
stated, I've been talking about it for the past 2 years.
So, but there still wasn't a vote.
Because you can't vote in committee,
all right.
we
Can we
can't
make a
we
suggestion?
can't vote in our committees, we have to go through bylaws.
You can
Yeah.
vote, we can vote what your committee is in favor of. Not to do it, but you could vote, is this, does each committee have a vote saying, are they in favor of this combination or not?
But
That you could do.
But there's another scenario that the language here implies that you can still have that, but it's not a permanent situation. It seems to me like, I don't know how the other community boards work, but is it still a transportation committee? Is it still a sanitation committee? Is it
No.
still, it's not, it's renamed. It's not that anymore. So people being put on that committee are serving in that committee, not specific to one committee. So the whole thing, the whole process, the whole committee structure would have to change to call it the
Municipality.
yeah, so it would be different from this. But if the three chairs agree to meet jointly, then they can. And the language implies that you can do that, but it doesn't make it a permanent obligation. So if sanitation doesn't want to meet with transportation and they want to have their separate meeting, they can do that. But if they want to meet together, you can. The language allows you to do that. It just doesn't create a permanent structure. It seems to me what makes more sense if you want to change everything is not call it transportation, not call it sanitation, but
Fine,
call it
call
that.
Yeah.
Because then you wouldn't have the structure. And then people assigned to that know that a quorum would be based on the membership. Because it seems to me if you have separate components, you have to get a quorum for each one
I see you.
for a meeting to be conducted. I'm on organizations where that's the process where we can't deal with one section of it because there's not a quorum for that. But then we have to move on and deal with the other pieces. So I think there's more thinking that has to go into place.
Right.
Make a
Uh,
suggestion.
Miguel had his hand raised
Okay.
before.
have a problem with that if it-
Oh, yeah, okay,
Oh,
we went,
go ahead.
all right.
Just wanted to say, perhaps we could table this and then have a joint meeting in November of transportation and have a discussion.
And make
Rather
sure,
than doing it,
Let
without
them
them being present.
well, why not call the chairs and co-chairs and say, you gotta be there because we need a vote.
In other words,
Can we
have
try to
a,
Almost make
co-chairs
it
to be there?
mandatory.
When you,
yeah.
Yeah.
And then it was a discussion and they said, let's do it.
But
But you have to go back.
But if-
Through the process.
if the proposal is to allow that to happen, but did I make it permanent? Is that the chair's understanding? It seems to me like the understanding was to make it permanent. I think that they need to know that there's an option, that you can continue to do that. The bylaws will provide you the opportunity to do that, but it doesn't create a permanent obligation. I think that's something they need to think about to see if that's a possibility.
All right, Miguel?
I think that the problem with the bylaws already state that joint committee, joint,
Possible.
it's happened many times,
Yeah.
because there's been a dual thing. The problem with having it be optional is the chair of one of the committees doesn't want it at all. So they're never gonna agree to have a joint meeting. So that-
A co-chair who just was recently put on it this year.
So then if there's a majority
You can't
vote,
do it for just one.
if there's a majority vote within each one, then for yes, then it gets renamed. But there's
There was a
no,
majority vote.
So you-
Where would,
One
it wasn't
someone
There's one person that's against it.
out of 4 people, one's against.
on which committee?
was it
Oh,
Well, how
involved
about the
somewhere?
committee itself?
I didn't read,
How about the committee itself, the entirety of the committee?
how many people are on that committee itself?
The
6.
committee.
How many on yours?
I have that right here.
But again, that's based on a permanent situation.
Yeah.
So, the
Sanitation
proposal-
has 7 and transportation.
It would be in the minutes. It would be, that vote would be in the minutes, so.
See, the other
But
question.
the thing
that
is, she's saying transportation has 8, when it's been discussed for 2 years now, and at
We're
least
discussing
probably,
it now.
let
what
me,
now?
at least 4 of them were not in the other prior conversation. But I know one of them I did speak to at the full board
But
meeting.
you're not a chair, but the chair, just if the chair and the co-chairs might have to be able to say, let's take a vote within our committees and put it in the minutes. And then if everybody is the majority vote in each one, and then to rename it and whatever, then
We
Let
didn't
it-
even have a quorum in last transportation because out of 8, 3 or 4 showed up?
If
So-
you have a joint meeting, you'll probably have a quorum of. Well,
That's
it'd be
what I
two
said.
different- Yeah, be 2 different.
Well,
But you
supposedly,
have to change the structure.
4 of the people that are newly on transportation as of September didn't get the notification that they were put on to transportation, hence their absence.
Well, then maybe we have to have another vote, you have to have another vote in meeting, maybe they didn't know, maybe they didn't understand.
It's not,
Debbie, let me finish, please. Also, what we have to understand is that with this municipality and these different other community boards, maybe that was set up at the very beginning, so there was no concern about a transportation committee and a sanitation,
Right, community.
because it was
yes.
combined in this municipality.
you
But
want me to go from the beginning?
I want Robert Press.
CB11 used to have it combined years ago,
When?
years ago.
When? At the very, I don't know.
When?
And not as long as I remember, and
I had looked it up sometime back. It was,
if it was there, then maybe they felt there was a
Yeah.
need for a change.
and like I
Well,
said, 11 of the other community boards have it as a municipality. Ours is the only one that has it separate.
All right, Robert,
Community Board 8 had a joint meeting of Environment and Sanitation and Transportation to come up with a plan to cut down on the alternate side parking. It was a joint meeting by the two, because each one handles half of it. Now, you need to know what each committee is responsible for. I don't think this board knows that. The Transportation Committee is supposed to be responsible for street activity permits, sidewalk and street dining now, bike lanes, telecommunications, which would be the wires up above the ground and below the ground, Con Edison, okay, whereas sanitation and environment would be the sewer, water supply, air quality, and there hasn't been a meeting since the Pelham Parkway Task Force has been disbanded about the water tunnel being built across Pelham Parkway, which should be clumped in environment and sanitation. And by the way, Board 10 has only 6 committees total.
And they have, they're the only ones that, I mean, I don't know what all, I just know that 10 has municipalities, but they've always had that. They've had that for many, many, many years.
Right.
They never had separate. They always had.
Right, and
And so then
it's
things were
CB11,
understood.
it used to be a municipality, and then
What,
some
30
years,
years
some
ago?
years back, I think in my research, it was the mid-80s or the early 90s that it was separated.
Because I know in 2008, 2009, when I came on, we had neighborhood committees, so we didn't have separate category committees. We had neighborhoods, for example, Van Ness, Morris Park and Pelham Parkway was one meeting, and all of the issues were discussed within the neighborhood committees, which to me, when I was introduced with that, it was much more efficient, and there was a lot more discussed and got done quicker. So, but they were neighborhoods, but that's just my opinion from what we were able to get done in 2 hours. So as opposed to all of the separate committees, et cetera. But in this instance, then when it went from that, I think in 2010, 2011, when Tony Vitaliano was chair, and he changed it back to categories, and transportation is separate. So then you are talking about before in the 80s or 90s. So anyway, it doesn't, you know, they're I just feel that bylaws, it's good for discussion, but I think the ultimate decisions need to be a vote. The votes need to be put in the minutes, so that, you know, that decision to rename it and join it is okay by the chair, the co-chair, and the majority vote.
the one thing that I would say to do is have a meeting, and you have to make a joint meeting, a meeting of the sanitation and of the environmental together. And you make it almost mandatory. You have to discuss, and you could say, we must meet to discuss all of the different parts of, do we combine or do we go separate, but meet when we have to together as a joint?
And take a vote at that
And
joint
take a
meeting.
vote and then bring it up. But I think that's the way it would be fair to everybody. And I would suggest that we use some of Robert's idea of what he said is sanitation's part and what's the environmental part. And that is my opinion. And that's what I think should be done. And I think it's the same with Ellie. Are you thinking along the same way at this point? just to get a feel.
Well, my
So how
concern
come they,
is-
how come?
Let him finish, please.
My concern is, requiring a quorum for each particular section. I believe that if you want to combine them, what they're doing in other community boards makes more sense to me. But then you won't have to get a quorum for each individual committee. The new structure would have its own quorum. So you can have discussions based on that, not necessarily if you're lacking a quorum from sanitation, then sanitation can't vote on any of its issues. Or the environmental can't vote on any of its issues. You eliminate that process and you create a new committee that deals with all three. And each person on that committee's responsibility is the entire array of issues, not necessarily just sanitation or environmental or transportation. So I see moving in that direction, I think the structure needs to be changed and the title needs to be changed. In the interim, I think that each committee should be able to decide if they want to meet jointly until a new structure is created. That's my feedback, but not creating a
It's similar.
structure where you have the joint meetings and you still have each individual component. I think every person on that committee needs to be able to deal with all the three different components, not just one.
Where are the chairs?
That would have to be
No,
restructured.
but no, tonight, where are the chairs for transportation and
I can answer that.
you're a co-chair? You're a co-chair. He's a co-chair for sanitation.
Maybe they didn't realize that they were needed to be here. I mean, we don't know. We didn't say to them, or no one said to them, you have to show up to discuss. So I would table.
Hazel's right here, she knows.
Oh, what, you're the chair of the committee?
No, Hazel was right here
Oh,
when it was discussed in leadership.
In leadership, she was right here, she was against it. It
No,
was sent here for a vote and then, so she should know that.
Let me ask a question. Doesn't it make more sense to restructure the three committees and make it just one?
Yeah.
When you handle
Two committees.
what's two
Two
committees?
committees.
What would the two committees be?
It's sanitation and,
environment.
yes,
That's the title.
sanitation's title is sanitation and environmental protection.
Okay,
And then there's
Sanitation.
transportation.
but then you got transportation in there too. So
So
what I'm saying, if you're gonna combine the three, then maybe.
No, it's two.
Okay.
Well, yeah.
Sanitation- Oh, it's
it's two.
environmental protection and transportation, so the two. So combine the two and call it something else.
So,
Yes.
so
But
why not?
Not that,
No,
but
my only concern is that each of the committees hasn't voted to say they believe this should be done, but this shouldn't be done. Have a formal vote of each of the committees. Say, yes, we're gonna do it, we wanna do it this way, we think it's a good idea. No, we wanna keep it separate.
Because in a way, it sounds dictatorial that we're telling
That-
everyone on that committee, this is what you're gonna
What do you
do.
do?
Let them,
If you have a,
decide.
say, just have a formal vote on it, that's my
and
concern.
then come
At a
back and
joint-
say,
So-
let them have a joint meeting,
You know,
and then it can come back to
They don't even
bylaws.
need a joint meeting, they can, each committee
Well, the
can
joint-
meet separately.
Oh, the joint meeting
Assuming that they
will be
meet,
votes.
Yeah.
assuming that they meet and they agree to do that,
Yeah.
okay? Then do you change the structure?
Yeah, then I think you should change the structure.
So why not make a motion, the recommendation of the bylaws is to make a motion for a joint meeting to take a vote on
You wouldn't-
combining and renaming.
You wouldn't need a joint meeting, you would need a vote of each. of each
Separately,
separate committee.
separately.
They could meet at the same, they could meet at
Yeah.
the same time, but each committee should take a separate vote on it, what they think.
And each committee should know what they are responsible for, as Robert had said.
Yeah.
Because it would be precise, and then they know their limits.
Cynthia has a question.
And,
Yeah, in a minute.
the thing is, the chair and the co-chairs have to, I mean, you have to tell your committee members, this is an important meeting. Please be there so we have a quorum and we can vote on it. Because we need to have this vote to make this decision. And not only emails, but if you don't get response from the emails, make a phone call.
The other meeting, as far as transportation, the chair and the co-chair, if I remember correctly, they were two of the only other people that were in attendance besides me. It was,
All right.
And they were
Your chair,
online.
Cynthia,
and they were online.
All right, Cynthia,
Right.
And not here.
They were online and we didn't have a quorum
Yeah.
to do any voting.
well,
So
you,
I mean, it's taken longer than the Pelham Parker project. Can
Cynthia, all right, Cynthia,
So my observation is that at the full board meeting where there was a quorum, the motion was made to combine the two committees. No one from those committees, like Roger, Debbie, Harry, Averill, Hazel, who else was there? Was Rabbi there?
Yes.
So,
Online.
so all these people.
they may not have heard everything.
No, they heard it. They heard it
I'm-
because there was discussion about it. So if there was no objection or abstention to moving forward with the motion to present it to the bylaws committee, I don't see why we're sort of reinventing the wheel and say, let's have this conversation again, even though it was just had last month. That's just my.
I
outside
want,
observation.
my other question is, how many people from each of those committees were also present at the full meeting? This way you get their opinion.
I know,
Debbie, I'm just,
you're asking.
okay.
And I know that the absentees that were not at the transportation committee were present at full board, and they didn't raise any objection. I don't know about any of your newbies.
I was sitting next to Harry and I was sitting next to the new guy and Avril asked me to make the motion.
Right,
Mhm.
and Avril's the chair. And he's the co-chair of sanitation. So apparently sanitation does want it.
It did, but to make that happen, there's more involved. You have to change the structure of the committee.
Fine, we'll
So,
change the
yeah,
structure.
so to
Call
do
it
that-
environmental. You don't have to call it some long name. Call it environmental, but that's the jurisdiction of what it would cover.
Yeah, but that's not the conversation that was had though, right? The conversation was had was to put these committees together.
Together.
But
So
let's
you
take
wanted
into
a big
account-
name, sanitation, environmental, and transportation committee?
Without taking into account the quorum for each particular committee. That's something that needs to be addressed, so the quorum requirement decreases based on the membership, not in each individual component. So that conversation has to take place, so the change includes that it's a quorum of the new committee as opposed to each individual committee.
All right, Christina, you had your,
So
I thought one
I
of,
think
Yes.
the recommendation was to be that each committee have a meeting to get it on record. And then
Exactly.
do we want to combine,
Yes,
but
but
also,
they need to know the new structure, that argument.
yeah, the other questions like, do a chair or a co-chair want to resign their position in order to?
That's it, yeah.
That's
right,
part of it.
and some of them may want to leave the committees, maybe they don't like
Be part of it.
There
They
might
want to
be
be part of
something
it.
The
that's
structure, as I understand it, the structure is giving that this new committee is gonna have whatever these two committees had in the past, will be the jurisdiction, if you wanna call it that, of this new committee. I don't see that as a big problem, because all they're doing is saying, hey, our committee takes, the committee used to have the committee one used to have A, committee two used to have B, we're now gonna have A and B in this new
Yeah.
committee. I don't see that as a big.
So I don't think they're gonna reinvent the wheel, but
All I see is whether or not the committees themselves believe they should join it. I think that should be a formal vote of the committees. That's my only concern.
yes, and I
That's my
agree
concern.
too.
So just back to
Yeah.
Cynthia's original point about the discussion at the full board. If you're looking at attendances, you can see that more than half of the people on both committees were in attendance.
All right, but you know what? They may have been sitting near each other or maybe apart. One more time, just let them all come together at the table and discuss it, not being here, there, everywhere. Maybe they didn't realize, some of them were new, that they could have discussed it. Maybe they were afraid because they were new. This way, they're at a table and they're discussing it as a group, their own group, and they fully understand. We won't be there. It
But
could
at
be,
least it'll be
it could be
done.
fine.
But would you, in order to kind of get rid of any other roadblocks further down the road, to have it the most efficient meeting possible, when you're taking that discussion, we also want to think about reducing the total number, because that would be like 15 people And then you.
Well, what Debbie,
Some people
what
might
Debbie
not-
is gonna say is that some people are on both committees.
Yeah.
And yet, maybe they don't wanna be on this one. And there are others who now, we'll say to Bernadette, I don't wanna be on the committee.
Yeah, there's some.
And she could
yeah.
say, oh,
And they bow out of that.
Yeah,
committee
they want to
and
go
join.
on to another committee,
hey,
yeah.
right. But I think, Roger, you're kind of agreeing with us. I get the feeling that you should have them meet. Yeah, it's not reinventing the wheel. It's just getting it a little bit more together, I think, and getting more voices. All right, Christine.
Yeah, no, I'm just a little confused as why somebody would, bow out of these committees. I mean.
I don't know. We don't know.
Some of them are kind of like,
They might.
You know, you never know.
Relevant to this discussion.
We can't, we're not the psychologists to figure out why they're gonna think the way they do.
they would still have to be on subcommittee.
Yeah.
Yeah, we still have to put them on a
They
committee.
still have to be on subcommittee.
So we'll put them on another committee.
But it's so large, right?
Yeah.
Because then-
You don't want, yeah.
See, that would be part of the restructuring.
Right.
That's the
You
restructure.
eliminate the quorum for each particular one.
And then
You have just
yeah,
one quorum for the whole
roles.
deal.
Right.
Yeah.
So you can decide whether you
When
want
this
to.
committee
Right.
Or a
together,
separate one and
bring the
separate.
action, like what community board 10 and what other boards, like the decisions for the municipalities, what, what they cover, et cetera, or what the descriptions are, and offer that up as part of the discussion.
What do you mean?
Because if they deal with a list of things, transportation, just spell it out, so everybody knows what they're voting on. All right, transportation deals with DOT, Con Ed, blah, blah, blah,
You want
et cetera. And the
Roberts.
new municipalities will be the same, or if there's see if there's any question in the mind of anybody. I mean, I don't think so, but I'm just for discussion.
Yeah, we're just, and who knows, maybe some of them, I'm wondering if some of them work for Con Ed or whatever, would there be a conflict of interest being on that committee? I mean, but we don't know.
Yeah.
I have another question, since we're required to be on 3 committees, does,
No,
does-
No,
we're not.
it's
No,
not
we're not.
required to be
Okay.
on 3. You can be
okay.
up to 3.
Up to four, preferably 3, but if you could only be on,
It's 4.
It's in
Just-
there.
just
Oh.
it's in there.
Yeah.
Okay,
It's not a requirement.
It's not a
I
requirement,
remember when it was 2.
It was a while ago.
but
But here's like, you're actually like on 2 different committees within one.
Right.
I was only on one for the first year and a half, but I was on the board.
So does anyone want to make a motion to have the
all right, I make a motion
If you have them.
that there should be a meeting of the sanitation and the environmental protection.
no sanitation and
Environmental
and
protection.
transportation?
Okay,
They call it sanitation, Mila. That's the reason.
right. Combine that the sanitation and environmental protection and the transportation committees should meet to discuss the,
Gonna take a vote.
restructuring, thank you, of their committees to a new named committee and knowing what the full reconstruction will entail. And then they could vote on it and decide if they want to remain in the committee or leave.
Each separate committee can take in separate
They,
votes.
it's separate
Yeah.
vote. Each committee would
They,
decide.
honestly, they don't have necessarily have to have a joint meeting, they have to have a.
They can have a meeting, separate meeting.
Specific meeting.
Yeah.
On the record.
Yeah.
Should have
Yeah.
a specific meeting on this specific issue.
And let it be known that that meeting that you're having is very specific. Because it needs the vote because you want to restructure. And combine. So you're telling them, please come.
So I guess it would be
Right.
a motion for the sanitation and transportation committees. I'm gonna call them transportation.
Okay,
To have a meeting to discuss and decide whether whether the committees should be
should
combined.
be reconstructed to restructured.
I'm gonna look at the
Okay.
old, I'm gonna look at the old video of when we did have the 2 of them together.
Give me
And
that.
and we
Let's
did
just
discuss,
go
we
for
did
now.
discuss
I
it.
know. Yeah, but
This-
now, we're talking
Now,
about
we're talking
different
right
people
now,
with
and
different people.
let's forget what was, we want to know what is gonna happen. So let's do
Should
it
be
Reconstru-
combined and restructured.
structured
That's restructured.
with a new name
Well, let's
Well,
leave it.
but I'm just,
Let's
you know,
leave them,
okay.
them to make that decision. I mean, that's my opinion.
Right, okay,
So that's it. So to have the, you want to just say it?
all right.
Look, I just.
A meeting, I make a motion that there should be a meeting to discuss and decide that, oh, excuse me. That the sanitation and transportation have a meeting, each could have a committee meeting, and each one could be separate to discuss and decide whether to combine, or to
Combine and restructure.
combine and restructure the committees into
All right.
one.
Oh. Into one. Okay, anybody second, I guess?
I second that.
Okay.
And just note that the chairs and the co-chairs have to call. their
Well, you
committees.
know, you will make that point as chair,
Yeah.
say
we
that this
have
is,
to-
you know,
We're gonna meet tomorrow
Just rely
and talk about
on
it.
emails. If they're not getting the responses, you have to call and say, this is an important meeting. Please show up in person so we have a quorum.
right,
And this can be discussed and voted on,
Okay.
Right.
and, you know,
because it also affects their future too.
yes.
And there's several pieces that need to be discussed in that meeting. Like the need to lower the quorum amount, perhaps you don't need 15 people. Yeah, there's a lot of issues that need to be discussed in restructuring, other than just getting a vote whether they want to, bring it
To some extent, that's gonna be irrelevant because you're not gonna have all the people who are, as they put out, some of them overlap, and not all the people are gonna wanna be on both committees. I think that
It'll
quorum
work
issue.
itself out. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, but they need they need to hear.
They have to
that
understand
quorum
all-
issue, that's an issue.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't
And,
think it's any more of an issue than any other committee at any other time.
well, we're talking about two different committees and they each have a quorum.
Okay.
And now that quorum for each committee will be eliminated and you create one structure. And so that conversation needs to be had so people understand it.
right. You see, and also Debbie, this is just an aside, that maybe that municipality committee was set up at the very beginning and the issues were discussed. And we've had these two for a very long time, a long time. So, and I don't even think there are videos of what you're saying.
You're right.
So,
No, but you know how Jeremy likes doing these, how well you
this-
how well you know your community board? And researching some of the answers for his little stuff is when I had discovered that it once was combined.
Yeah,
I hate to say it, but I think it was separated because it was a boys club thing.
Yeah,
well,
but between that,
Well, we don't know.
between that
We
and
don't
that,
know.
there was the neighborhood committee, so that, everything was
Yeah.
disbanded.
all
So
right.
there is a
I
precedent
think,
for combining and uncombining.
So-
Yeah.
all right, I think this issue has
Yeah,
now
okay,
come
we have
to a
yes,
vote because we have others
beat
to
that
discuss.
death,
Has anyone second the motion?
yeah. Ellie did.
Ellie did. Okay,
Okay,
fine.
got it.
So that's that one. Now,
We have a vote, we have to
Wait, oh,
vote on them.
oh my God.
all right,
Yes,
I vote.
All right.
I'm allowed.
okay.
Aye.
So it's one another unanimous vote. Forgot about that, sorry.
All
Okay,
right, Here we go.
all
Okay.
right. Now, there's been a lot of emailing recently about committee chair and co-chairs. Cynthia made a proposal and Naomi made proposals about choosing, having committee chairs, how many people, should, what they should, if they're a chair or if they're on the executive board, they should not be a chair of a
That,
committee
we're not dealing with that now. We're just
Right.
dealing with these.
with the committee. So we're dealing committee should
These
elect.
two.
When
All right, and we also, well, I thought that, Cynthia and Naomi, some of them overlap, because it was all similar, not exactly, but similar. Cynthia may elect their own chair and co-chair at a committee meeting. We should allow nominations from committees or the board itself on who they would like to be chair of the various committees. To me, that's kind of like similar or overlapping. Then the nominations are sent to the chair.
That's Naomi, too.
Naomi said to approve. If the chair disagrees, then the chair picks the chair. If the chair who is appointed, this is all from Naomi after what
Right.
Cynthia said in her book, after 90 days is not the right fit, the committee should be able to vote on the chair to be removed, and the request should go to the full board. So-
So we were thinking, we were talking, and we were saying that they're similar, they're different, but similar in the sense of how to select
Like
chairs
chair
and
and
co-chairs. And we were thinking that the first one kind of leaves the chairperson, Bernadette in this case, out completely. Whereas with the second one, honestly, if the committees want to a certain chair or co-chair, and then they suggest it to the chair, she's not gonna say no unless the person has porn in their computer or they storm the Capitol or did something crazy. But other than that, it probably would just stand. So it's kind of the same thing.
That's what,
But it's more collaborative and it includes the chair in the decision making.
right,
So that's what we were.
That's what we
thinking
were
about.
thinking.
That's why we were, relating the two.
true, that's why we thought they were similar yet different, but there is a commonality about it because of choosing chair and co-chairs. And then looking at the community board bylaws as of April 2023, it said the chairperson shall preside at all hearings and meetings of the full board, while all reports for the community board, be a member of the district service cabinet and the borough board. Appoint all members to at least one committee, but not more than 4. So in a
There's the
minute, let me
four.
finish reading the bylaws. I see you, Miguel. Leadership committee and an
Wait.
ex officio, non-voting member of all standing committees, special and ad hoc committees, and exercise all those powers granted to them by the charter, Europe, and these bylaws. The chairperson may appoint a board officer to represent the community board at any borough board meeting. The chairperson advises the district manager and all other managerial staff. So, we could, if we left everything up to the committee, and they may not know each other when they're all new, and Bernadette, at this point, who is the chairperson, she has vetted them all, they have knows all their resumes, etc. And they requested to be on a certain committee, and then she chose, and maybe some of the people were people who have been on the board a while, but they understand more and can guide. And then maybe the next year, there could be
Pass it
another
on,
chair
like
and
what happened
pass it
to
on.
me.
Now, Miguel, you wanted to say something loud and clear.
Very loud and clear. The first thing that I had, Cindy, is that's assuming that Bernadette is chair forever.
Well,
I
I
really, I
Point.
believe
this
that
point.
she will definitely, if there's but who knows if
Right.
some crazy thing and somebody crazy gets elected to chair,
Right,
I get nervous leaving that there because look, I know that Bernadette is a fair person and I know that she's most likely not gonna go against the committee.
Exactly.
But the person following her, following him, or whoever, that's what bothers me. And if the idea is that the chair, that the chair is gonna listen to the committee anyway, then why does it have to go to the chair at all?
Well, because it's collaborative.
right.
But maybe we can put a proviso in there that says that unless there is some overwhelming
Or
Problem.
unforeseen circumstances.
unforeseen circumstance, the chair will go with what the committee decides. I mean, we could do it that way too, but at least there's the collaboration and not just her left out altogether or him in the future or whatever. We
And
put a
with-
proviso in there.
I'm
so we
sorry.
need-
And it's also
Okay.
the, people being, and I know it's a different ballgame, but when somebody is chair or co-chair of 6 different committees, I feel like that's also one of the reasons that I know I've been talking about this since I got on the board. And the idea too, that, people that have been on the board longer maybe could guide. I mean, my perfect example is Serena. She was brand new. She got, she probably one of the more effective chairs of any of the committees. And she was brand new. So I don't agree with that argument. And
But
that's
who
all.
appointed her as chair?
Hell,
Gazelle, yeah.
Yeah,
Because nobody wants.
so.
'Cause
that person who appointed, I mean, I'm just saying,
But
she
what
was appointed. What you're saying is, you know, they don't know who's gonna be in charge or whatever. With Naomi's, recommendation, she gave a 90-day thing that the committee itself could then decide if they can't get along with the chair or the chair isn't doing the job for whatever reason.
Attendance.
Then it can ask for that person to be relieved of its duties.
And then,
And then the committee
Well, the
would
co-chair would move up and.
move up, and then the
And you-
committee would then choose a co-chair. Which, all right,
Debbie, I think Debbie wanted to say something.
Did you have your hand up?
Yeah.
She had her hand.
That's okay, I just had my back to you.
But some months back, Rabbi Fuchs was the only chair of transportation. There was no co-chair. I wanted to be co-chair, and then all of a sudden Hazel, who was not even on transportation at the time, got put on transportation and got put on as co-chair.
was she ever on transportation before? All right, then let Bernadette speak since she was.
She had, no, I'm just saying, before Deb, she had requested, well, who was, you know, I would be interested, she had brought to me that she was interested because she saw there was no co-chair and she wanted to know about it, and she was interested. That was before.
All right,
Why wasn't she even on the committee then, if she was so interested?
Because she was on housing. And maybe she didn't have time. I don't know.
I don't
That's-
know.
I can't read her mind. I don't know.
I don't know, Christine,
I agree that it's not fair to her. I agree that it's not fair that somebody who has been on the committee of a certain committee gets, you know, bypassed for somebody who is not on the committee.
all right.
No matter
That's
what
not
the
what we're
history.
discussing right now.
It is discussing.
It's not
Yes.
the collaborative spirit.
Committee
That's
members
something-
elect their own chairperson, yes.
No.
No.
But elect
This
their own
person.
chairperson, not elect yourself.
No, I'm not saying elect yourself, but you're gonna come out, somebody's gonna come out of left field and then all of a sudden be the umpire of the game?
Is explaining why that one isn't
All right, but that would be
in her
now.
opinion.
No, I mean, it would be ex post facto because this is not yet part of the bylaw.
If Hazel had so wanted to be on transportation, why wasn't
I mean,
why wasn't she already on transportation, number one? Number
But
two,
she's not dealing with the problem right now.
number two, because we're still hybrid, which I'm against, but we're still hybrid. She couldn't even, wasn't even attending virtually to hear me say for the past 2 years about joining the two committees. And then
But you know
No,
what, Debbie, you're bringing up something.
it
that-
keeps on coming back.
Yeah, but it's not what dealing with the issue right now. And we have to deal with the issue right now, not what was, whatever. I understand what
The
you're
issue
coming,
now is because of an issue of was.
but we want to know
Moving
what,
forward.
how we're gonna work on this now. How are we gonna plan? Are we gonna come up with a new bylaw? Miguel, you had your hand raised.
The same thing happened to me. You know, I'm now coming up on 2 years on the board. I have no, you know, I'm not a chair or co-chair on anything, but there are people that are co-chairs of 16 things that were, and, you know, my other, you know, I wanted to be co-chair of ethics because I did a shit ton of work, pardon my French, but I did a lot of work, and that's what the chair wanted, Naomi, and I was bypassed. And I don't think that's fair because I think had there been, you know, had it been a democratic situation, that wouldn't have happened. And so I feel like it,
Right,
it ends up being, you know, like it, you want to talk about dictatorial, you know, like you're telling us, no, you can't have the chair you want,
All right.
you know, so it's just like,
But now,
it's gotta be a democratic
if
situation.
we, okay, all right, Robert, and then I'll.
No,
move on with
Cynthia
mine.
had her hand up.
Then I have,
Okay, go ahead, Robert.
Cynthia's had her.
Oh, I didn't see, I'm sorry.
That's okay. When we speak of collaboration, my observation has been that there is little to none when it comes to the appointments of chairs. The most recent example, and I understand that Robert is not a board member, but he was a community member of a
Right.
committee.
Oh,
The
is it
entire
transportation?
of housing.
Housing, I'm sorry, no, it's.
And I know many of the members on the housing committee were completely blown away because they, number one, didn't know he had been appointed, and then number two, didn't know that he had been taken off. That is not collaboration. And that is a perfect example of the type of thing that happens when there's musical chairs. And we saw it over the summer before the new members were appointed. There was this flurry of new chair appointments and here and there, and I am sorry, but I don't think it's appropriate for when you have 44 people on the board for one person to be chairing 2 or 3 committees or 5 committees, whether they're standing or non-standing. It is inappropriate because you have more than enough able, capable, smart, dedicated, committed members on this board who are ready and willing to put in the work. It seems obstructive. That's what it is. It seems like stonewalling.
Well, then I guess what we'll do is just separate the two. We were gonna try to combine them and then have the full board vote on what they want.
All right, Bernadette had a,
Yeah, there, as far as the duties of the chair, when there are new, committee members that have been, selected, the job of the chair is to make sure they're appointed before September. So that was the flurry that you're, talking about. That's the flurry. And as far as what goes with Bob, okay, there was an agreement, there was discussion between the chair of housing and with the chair of Community Board 11 as far as being the community committee member.
But not with the committee.
It was discussed with the chair of housing separately, and then the chair of Community Board 11. There were separate discussions that said yes. And then there was a request saying, well, if you're going to do that, please don't bash Community Board 11. There was a verbal request given with the chair of housing, a discussion, and there was a discussion with the chair of Community Board 11. And then the chair asked housing, is this something you want? And she said, yes, but I'm in agreement. You can't be bashing and dissecting the same place you're supposed to be supporting. So 4 days later, and this is all put in an email. This is all put in an email that was sent out to all the board members because 4 days later, there was approval of different posts, etc., that were discrimination. It was knocking the board, not just knocking me, but knocking Community Board 11, etc. And Bob, I'm just stating facts as they were. I'm just stating
I
facts.
don't want to comment to that.
Okay,
I'm not going to because.
but it's in an email. It's in an email.
But everything you're saying completely discounts the collaborative part of the rest of the committee.
Well, then we'll just.
But the
divide
committee
it. That's
chair-
all. Divide it up and let the board vote on it. That's my suggestion.
all right, Bob,
I'd rather say this than, address that because that's in the past and that was taken care of. Okay, so I don't want to bring anything about that up.
all right.
Okay?
We're not gonna cry over
No.
spilled milk.
No, okay? What the entire board does though is they vote for the officers of the board. And on several other boards, they vote for the committee chairs who then select their vice chair or co-chair. That might be a better solution here for this board. Because, who can you trust more than the members of the board who know more about each other? All right, and it's, like I said, I've come from a board like that, and I was vice chair of 2 committees that way, and chair of a committee, okay? And you see the experience and knowledge that I have. It's a way of getting people to have knowledge by putting them onto committees either as chair or vice chair. I'm not saying there's any holdback or anything, but it's just being used by other board members. And it should be the borough president's call on how members are made committee chairs or vice chairs or co-chairs. But the borough president seemed not to want to do this. I had spoken to the previous borough president 10 years ago, and the answer I got was, don't give us any more work.
Yeah,
Yeah,
just
throw
deal with
it,
it.
yeah, that's, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So,
Borough
you know,
president
and it's
doesn't
up
wanna
to
do
this
it.
board, but the members of the board should know the other members. All right, as good as the chair of the board, whoever the chair may be.
Can I make it
All right,
a
yeah.
suggestion?
Let's write down Bob's suggestion, which I thought was good. He made a point, if I may, of saying that the executive board is chosen by the full board. Correct? Am I?
Yes.
All right, that's the first part. The second part was, you said that the community board members choose the chairs of the individual committees,
That goes through a nominating
a
committee.
nominating committee. So it can't, is it gonna be done, is it one meeting or is
One
it
meeting, yeah.
one meeting? All right,
Yes.
that may be the only part of
Yeah.
the meeting we're gonna have. And then, okay, so they choose the chairs, and then the chair
Chooses
of the new chosen chair chooses the co-chair?
Yeah,
Is that,
the newly
okay,
elected chair.
okay, we just wanna write that
Okay.
down, I see, okay.
Well, I know, but that's not gonna be.
I don't know, all right, Miguel,
Just as far as that goes, I mean, we were just talking about combining whatever we're gonna call it, municipality. I don't know anything about any of that stuff. Why would I vote on who me not being on that committee and not knowing anything about sanitation? Why would I have a say in who the chair of that committee was going to be? I feel like those of us in the committees, provided we actually show up to the.
yeah, you know, I
know
agree.
each other a lot better and we
Right.
know the subject matter a lot better. I just feel like I would have no place voting on sanitation or, helping you.
Right, or you would be on ethics and you would be fine.
I'm sorry.
If you were on ethics, you had an ethics chair and you,
Sure,
but yeah,
Sure,
I'm just saying you would be
Because I
fine.
I know how it works and I know.
We're just listening all of the suggestions. All right, Bernadette,
It's a suggestion on a collaborative level that the chairs of the committees are appointed by the chair of the board, and the co-chairs are appointed by the committee, the chair and the committee members of that specific committee.
well, that's what that's
But,
basically, what,
No, that's not what he said.
no?
No. Well,
It should
yeah,
be-
in a way, yeah. but-
Say it.
The chair-
I'm just on the chair, and he's saying the
chair could be-
co-chair and the chair, not.
So,
And however you want to do co-chair is fine. If you want the chair to pick the co-chair, if the chair would pick the
Usually
co-chair, I would.
the chair,
vice chair.
usually the chair does say, I want to work with that person, I don't want to work with that
Right.
person. So they usually do, and they say, you know what, can you put this person as chair, because I don't want that person as
Sure.
chair, you know, that.
The
that
question
kind of
is,
thing.
if the chair at that time doesn't particularly care for whoever that it is, that.
Well, then that's a
Work
conflict of
together, that's a
personality,
problem.
yeah.
That's a problem.
That's,
Yeah.
there should be.
That's why it should be more
It should be
collaborative.
it should be elected from the committee. I mean, it's just, it's the simplest answer and it's the democratic answer.
Well, maybe not the co-chair, maybe just the chair, and then let the co-chair pick
Sure. Or the chair pick the co-chair, that's fine.
the chair. pick-
One thing we're gonna have to,
Yeah.
we're gonna have to, special.
Let Kenny,
If you take either of these, you're gonna have to have a transition, some sort of a transitional bylaw or anything else, say it's gotta be done at the next meeting of the committee or something like that, because otherwise you do have this mandate when this transition is gonna take place. Just about that.
all right, because everyone could make it at different times. And then we go nuts every time we change it. So say in September or October,
after summer.
after the summer, if we do that.
Whereas
So that gives it a year.
No, well,
pick a particular date, pick 2 months, 3 months, whatever it is.
What do you mean?
Because you're transitioning from one type of chair to another type of chair. You've got to have a transition point. You've got to provide for that transition point in our bylaws.
That'd be true.
You have
In
to
other words, like
transition
everyone-
into-
Wait a minute.
No, you're going,
Let him finish,
you now have,
please.
you now have a chair that's appointed by the board chair. You now want to go to this type, to a new type of chair. You've got to have a transit, you got to provide for that transition in the bylaws also. That's all that I'm saying.
At this time, and once it's in, then the next time it will be much
We
easier.
have to transition into new bylaws. I mean,
Or-
bylaws
Well,
are.
this is-
I mean, we get chairs put on and chairs taken off all the time. I don't see why that
You're
would.
gonna have to, but except it's done differently, and you'd have to say, is this gonna be done by one particular date, by a second particular date? Otherwise, you may or may not be able to do it. That's why, that's,
I see where
So
he's
you're
coming
saying you're
from.
gonna transition from a dictatorship to a diplomatic way?
Yeah.
to a democratic.
Dictatorship?
A dictatorship.
Dictatorship.
No, wait,
Really?
but when you say
You're transitioning
appoint, you
from
know,
the-
you're
from the
just
point-
putting it on.
You're transitioning from.
I don't like that word dictatorship.
Yeah.
Believe me, I don't.
Transitioning from
Now, that yeah, was making that.
So-
appointment to an elected.
Committee choice,
So
that's fine. When does this happen?
yeah,
See,
that's a good question.
You see,
Immediately?
do we do it immediately? If they vote on
At the
this
next, at the
proposal,
next meeting.
I'm
of
finished.
Each committee?
I'm talking.
Okay.
What I'm asking is, do we vote on the idea that we make the change? And it would have to go to hopefully tomorrow if we get.
No, we have to see which they want.
Right.
We have, the full board might choose I or, you know, might want
One or
one or two. So we can't,
Or
we
neither.
can't make, or neither. They might not like either of them.
Right.
So the collaborative way of having the chair pick the chair and the members pick the co-chair is not even,
That's not even in there.
No.
That would have to be a separate.
Yeah, that it was,
I mean,
committee members elect their own chair people. So that means both the chair and the co-chair.
well,
Or committees or the full board nominate the chairs of each committee. Subject to approval by the board. That would mean the executive board.
No.
Oh, by the
By
whole.
chair.
By the,
by the
oh,
chair.
just the,
Just the
only
chair.
the chair.
Right.
Okay. After 90
Well,
days.
you don't have to say that.
You don't have to say that.
Just the committee, yeah, okay. Now, unless we want to change that and, I mean, Naomi isn't here, so I don't know if she
And
wants
she's
to
not on.
change that. She's not on. So I don't think we can change hers. I mean, Cynthia wants to change hers to chairperson and vice chairperson be chosen by the chair, or otherwise we just leave it the way it is.
When you say vice chair by the chair, you mean the committee chair? or
Committee
the
chair,
board
the
chair?
co-chair.
vice chair is
The
I meant,
Co-chair,
like,
the
you know what,
co-chair,
somebody else
right.
said vice chair and
Yeah,
yeah,
some people say vice chair, it says
I don't have any skin in the.
Co-chair.
Yeah,
It's
so
vice
the,
chair.
the committee
Yeah.
would elect the committee chair and the committee chair would select their co-chair.
You want to
That's what
change
we're
it
saying.
to
Want
that?
to change it?
Okay,
Okay.
let's do that, because that's.
Committee members elect their own chairperson,
Person
person. And
and,
chairperson,
and,
you know, can you listen to us? And not,
and the
so you'll hear
chairperson
it.
will select own co-chair. How's that?
How's it?
So we could do that, that might work.
Right,
That might work. So then Naomi, like I said, Naomi's we can't change because she's not here, so.
right.
you know, okay.
Thank you.
So we'll have to just see which they like tomorrow. So, you know,
Neither.
or
Or
neither.
neither.
They might not like it at
So-
all.
We're going to make a motion. I will make a motion that one motion, committee members elect their own chairperson and the chairperson elects their own co-chair. That's one,
No, two,
and that's one motion.
right.
Or
Should we do one at a time, a
Fine.
second?
What do you think? Do we do one of each of the?
Yeah, we'll do one at a
Or,
time,
or
because they're
do you want at a
separate.
time, or do you want to do, or do you want to, or do you want to reject, or you want to have a motion to reject both of them first?
Well, we can vote, and if you
I think we ought to have a motion whether they want to reject both of them first. Because you have a motion to say, I like this one, then you have another to say, I like the second one, then you have a third motion to say, I don't like either of them. You can have, in a sense, opposing motions. Have the motion, do we want to reject both of them? They say no, we then vote on each one of them separately.
All right, so we're giving the whole board an
No.
option. Well, actually, three options.
That's correct.
To not vote on either one, saying they don't like either one, or two, and three, they like either one or two. All right, that sounds, I think it sounds fair.
You want to make that motion?
Make-
No?
okay.
No.
The motion is to make it, to vote in that order. First, to reject both of them. If they are both not, if that motion fails, which do you to vote on one and two in that order?
Okay,
Right, and we're rewording the one that Cynthia wrote.
well, yeah.
Now, the question, what happens if they both get tie votes?
Again,
Then we just. vote.
I'm asking you a question. I don't know
Okay,
the
keep
answer.
doing that in the house, so.
In theory, you could get a tie vote on, you get a tie vote for each
We
of
could
them.
have a debate on the floor about which one, why.
Right, I'm saying,
Right.
you have a discussion
But we're
Never
gonna have
know.
no debate.
after you have a discussion on the motion.
Hopefully no debate.
What if both of them get the same number of votes?
He's just looking at all scenarios, which is good.
You can go, I think that there should be discussion, a debate on the floor about why, which.
You're
which
right.
This one works.
And we've had a vote, and
So,
you've
but
had the
let's
discussion.
say, let's.
You know what?
You do have a debate and it turns into a tie, right? What's the likelihood of that happening?
I don't know. but I
Very
want-
small. But let's.
Maybe.
But you know what? If we have a
Maybe.
debate,
Let's
we'll
continue.
be at that meeting.
Let's talk
till
about
29.
what could happen, what could be the tiebreaker there, another vote?
I don't-
Yeah.
At that point, neither, I don't know if either.
No,
You
there
know?
wouldn't be another vote.
No, then maybe you have the debate, if there is, but
Okay.
not before, because if
Okay.
you have it
I
before,
like the
you will
debate.
have till midnight. And believe me, I don't wanna be there till midnight.
Nobody wants to.
Malcolm did say 10 minutes of discussion.
Yes.
Yeah, well, hopefully, I
There
like
you
that
go.
one.
Anyway,
All
so,
right, wait,
all right, go ahead.
Just
Go ahead,
quickly,
okay.
I don't know about. I mean, there are the two proposed bylaw amendments on the agenda. There's nothing on the agenda saying, or none of these.
well, that's
I mean,
what
this is
he's
a
saying.
point of-
We're gonna add that when they reject both.
We can add.
Did that was the rejection of both.
I mean, I feel like we don't do that for.
He said we should do that.
Bylaws thing we change. When we're having this meeting and Cynthia, we're tweaking it, right? So that happens with bylaws and not, with other committees, maybe not. But we're tweaking this because, we want to be fair to everyone.
Right. So that's why Kenny's idea of rejecting them all is a good one.
I
And
think
then,
maybe just reading the two first, because I feel like having it be a third vote. If you don't like either two, then just vote no on both.
Well, yeah, that's true
Possible.
too.
that's
We
another
could try that and
Both of them.
we could,
Has to be majority.
well.
I mean, I've seen that happen before. I've just never heard,
The
like.
thing is that the people who vote for one, they're not gonna vote for the second one, because they're very different. They're
They
very
are different,
different.
But they can, they may or may not do that.
Split.
No, but theoretically, you can vote for both of these. You can vote and say, I think this is a good idea. I think this is also a good idea.
then what? Then we have a
That's
dilemma.
That's my point.
Well, do we have a speaker of the house to break the vote? No, I don't think so.
We got one today.
I know,
We don't have a vice president.
I know.
Are you taking away stuff from the chair so then I can't speak anyway?
Yeah, I know. Well, we're just saying that these are what was brought up and we have to vote on it. They may or may not accept one or two, and in which case we'd leave it. We would leave.
See,
it.
I have a feeling that Naomi's may sound better to many of them because of that 90-day option, if their personalities don't meet or whatever, for whatever reason. And it gives you the approval to make the change. Or whoever the chairman will be the next time there's a vote.
Hopefully, Bernadette.
No.
But anyway, so,
Yeah, then-
anyway, so what are we gonna do? Well, I don't think I don't think that, I don't know. I think,
So how,
I think we have to make a
can you
motion
make,
for
what
each.
motion should we make? A separate motion?
Yeah, you can make some. You can make
Three
some-
different motions?
I think you have three, I think you have three different motions. One is to, I think your motion, we reject both. I think that motion is gonna be defeated entirely. I'll be very happy, and that's what I believe that's will be.
Which one?
The
The
motion
motion.
to reject both of them will be defeated, but I think the board ought to have the option of doing that.
Reject both,
Both.
reject,
And say, we don't want to change anything.
But
here.
none
Oh,
of the
that's
above?
it.
No.
We don't wanna change anything would be a reject vote. Okay,
all right,
I
if-
don't think that will pass, but that's
all right.
something different.
To be anonymous.
so it's giving a third option.
Giving a third option.
That's
Right.
good.
Yeah, Bob,
If they both fail, wouldn't the bylaws stay the same, so you don't need?
yeah,
Correct.
exactly.
It's more.
Yeah, that's true. Bylaws would
But
say
you have to
the
like
same,
state
they
it so
both
that everyone, all the board members like understand that.
Status
But it's basically status quo, option A or option B.
And I know I'm not on the committee, but I would feel more comfortable if the defeat them both was the third option. Give people the option to like one of the two, or, because I feel like if it's first, that's easy to, and it wasn't, that wasn't what was on the agenda.
So you're saying that you would like Ken's idea of rejecting both as an option? That's the first
If
option.
it's going to be an option,
But it's gonna be listed in,
Right.
it's gonna be listed in the,
We
agenda.
are voting these as separate, or we voting these, because if we can vote them together, then you can have.
They're opposite. though.
No, if you have,
We have
everybody
to
has
have
a
a
vote
tie.
of, you vote on, and we can do this, I think. You have a vote of, you can have a vote of three options, you pick one of these three options, period. Not two separate motions the way they are now,
Hmm.
but you have three, but there are three options on one motion. This motion has, there's three choices,
A, B, or C.
A, B, or C.
Okay.
do we have to, would we do that on, Google Vote or whatever, like we did for?
No, he could set up something where you vote, with your text message or
Yeah, your
whatever.
phone.
Because the other way with raising your hand, or it doesn't
Mhm.
work.
Because that's gonna be like,
Too much.
Or you can have a roll call with A, B, or C, either
Right.
one.
Oh.
So
that's
A would be
what- it would be,
rejecting
I don't-
both.
I don't care which one. it
Or-
is.
I
I
think
don't
that
think
option's gonna make it go quicker.
What?
Yeah,
I
I think
think,
that option's gonna make the meeting go quicker.
with his, yeah, all right, so,
One motion, three options.
right,
we
Yeah,
can do
I
that.
think that, I
Okay,
think
let's
that's
do
fair.
that.
So what's the third option?
the third option.
Third option is
Rejecting
the
both.
above.
Status quo.
Which
We
was
did this
very,
last-
was very,
All right,
the
let's-
above is very often the last one.
I believe that you have to state all three very clearly.
Yes.
The first option is to have the chair of the board appoint the chair of the committees, and then let the chair of the committee appoint the co-chairs.
That's not the way.
I'm just saying, that's one, well, no, I'm sorry, the first option is the status quo, so you will have to state it. The chair appoints the chair of the committees. Boom.
Okay,
The second
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
option is, whatever it is that's on the document, and the third option is this. Now you have A, B, and C, as opposed to saying C, none of the above. Now you state each one so they can vote
So
to keep the status quo.
chair, okay. the
Wait, hold on a minute, let's,
will-
look at it,
I'm just writing this.
Be the third option.
the third,
No, that's
okay, the
not
third
first.
option
That
is
should
up.
be the,
Me,
that should
quo
be
is
the
the
first
first.
option.
status quo.
Status quo.
The
is
first option should be the status quo, and then
right,
followed by the changes.
Which is,
Okay.
right.
this, in the sense, the status
Right,
quo is the
so
same
you
as
can-
none of the above.
Yeah, but you need to state what it
You're the
is.
voice.
Just state what it is.
We could, no, that's not.
No,
That's not cool.
That's not.
It should be the third option.
No,
Gonna do-
because they're making it
Oh.
more distinct for us to better.
Yeah.
But what they're saying, I know that, but what they're doing
You're
is
proposing
trying
to change, so you have to say
sound
what the change
cleaner and
is.
better
You know
for
what?
us.
The chair will say, this is what it is now. there were three proposals to change it.
I know, like we've not.
1, 2, and none of the above, which will keep the status quo.
And I disagree. Disagree. I think that we need to stay with the changes for.
You would see the two changes, and if you don't agree with those two changes, 3 is
Status
nothing,
quo.
status quo, you know.
Then we
I
keep
disagree.
then we
Because
keep
that's the
status
addition, these are the two that are on the
Both
agenda.
positions are reasonable.
Yeah.
Okay. So we're saying that one committee's member
I
elect
see.
their own chair persons. Chairperson.
I don't, yeah. She'll read it
And
and then,
the chairpersons will select their own
Just
co-chair.
specify committee chairperson, just like.
Chair. Own
Chair.
chair. Co-chair. Okay.
okay,
Well,
now,
all right, now, and then that's
read
number
it.
1.
Three,
Number 2 would be
no change.
Naomi's. No, number 2 would be.
3, I'm sorry, I thought.
3 would be, no. 3 would
we
be
allow
Naomi's.
nominations.
For committees of the full board nominate. Committees. Or the full board, oh boy, okay.
Or the board itself.
Well, that's 2 different, completely different. I didn't even see that. Reading comprehension here, 101. Committees or the full board nominate the chairs, so.
So what if they both do it?
You can't have both. It has to be one or the other.
Well,
Well-
in the first one is Cynthia's, which is from the chair, which is.
Well, yeah,
committee.
that's.
So we would say Naomi's would be,
The
we
committee
should allow nominations
or full board. Well, you know what?
for the full board, from the full board itself.
It could
A vote
be
because-
if for some reason there is some problem with the committee or there is no committee or whatever,
My
then
question
the
is-
full board would.
My
do
question,
it.
but that's not the way it reads now. My question is, what happens if both do it?
What do you
Because the
mean?
way you've got the word or,
Yeah, I know.
and we
Yeah,
should,
we
we
don't
have
need,
priority
like-
on this.
Shouldn't it be pick one?
And or,
Well, we
No,
can't
pick one.
and or we could
We
do
know,
it.
but
We
right
can't do
now,
it.
Yeah, but-
even those they, both of them have, you could have, in a sense, dueling committees, dueling
yeah, because
nominations.
she worded this incorrectly. Because we should allow nominations from committees or the board itself. Whereas Cynthia's is only from the committees who are going to elect their chair or.
Well, yeah,
co-chair.
it's 2 different, but
But in this one,
but they nominate. The difference is committees nominate, not.
You know, so
Well,
maybe both,
It's fact construction.
I
There's no
do.
doubt about it.
fair.
The thing
You
is,
know
I
what?
thought Naomi
You know
would
what?
be here.
That's what I'm saying.
These were just proposals, these are ideas proposal, these are,
Well, we can
Final-
tweak
That's why
them.
we have to
We
tweak
can
it.
tweak it, so let's
because
tweak
the
it.
final wording,
Say committees nominate the chair. That's really probably the spirit of it anyway.
committees nominate,
The committees nominate the chairs of the committee.
okay, and
Committees
if not,
nominate.
and if they fail to nominate, then the board chair can nominate.
Yeah. that's-
Okay.
All right, nominate.
So, yeah,
the
that sounds better.
chairs.
I don't really like the board chair being,
If they fail to nominate.
That's if they fail to nominate, because then you'll be,
I feel like it's getting confusing.
What happens if they don't
Committees,
nominate?
I think.
Nominate the chairs of the
I think
committee,
maybe
subject to approval by
I
the
think
chair of
that
the board. That's
firstly,
true.
Most times, well, without fail, when given the opportunity, people usually vote to be able to vote for themselves, like,
They-
people like to. make
or their
themselves
friends,
president.
or yeah.
Or their friends or whatever, but I mean, yeah, yes, it can be a popularity contest, but also, a lot of times when you concentrate power in one place, then it becomes all their friends. All right. So I feel like having the third option, I do not agree, but if it's gonna be in there, then I'm not in the committee. Fine, but it should be the third option because it shouldn't be number one. There's a lot of.
No,
people that
it's
voting.
it's number 1. The Cynthia's is number 1.
Right. But I think there should be
Number two,
very
third
simple,
option is number
like,
three.
you know, not if you fail, then
No, no,
then the
it's-
chair or whatever.
No,
I really think it should just be,
So
you know,
committees, all
the
right,
committees vote for their chairs, period.
will nominate the chairs of each, chairs and co-chairs of each committee,
Or we could have the chair do what, where. we have the-
subject to approval, that's what she's saying, subject to approval
Of the,
of the chair.
Of the-
The board, the chair of the
chair.
board.
Naomi's is a little confusing.
Not the.
if Naomi's is confusing, the more you read
You
it.
know, if Naomi
And-
is, she's gonna show up, so if she says, oh, I wanna say, and I'll say, well, all right, we're gonna put that in, and we don't,
Well,
no.
that's
It's
what I wanted-
verbal, it's verbal.
What I wanted to add is that I think that Naomi and Cynthia both should have an opportunity to make their case for those proposals, right?
Right.
Yeah.
This is a discussion.
No, that will
That's
be
in
the
the
10 minutes,
discussion.
that will be in the
That's in
discussion.
discussion.
That's why we are not, we were supposed to look at Veronica's, but she was,
She's not
she,
here.
she had a prior engagement.
So we'll do it next time. She said, please push it to. the
Please
next
push it to
committee."
the next one.
So the, and I don't know about, after 90 days of service, we could put that in too. After, so it would be the chairs and co-chairs of each committee nominate their committee chairs and co-chairs to the approval of the chair of the board. After 90 days service, committee chairs can be removed by vote of the committee, subject to approval by the chair of the board. So that's two. Number three, how would wanna,
Number three
number
is
three is
the,
the
Let
chair.
him, yeah,
as is done now, the chair nominates the chairs of the committee,
right,
period.
keeping the status quo.
Installs.
Yeah, as is done.
As is done now.
Chair
Supposed to serve
Couldn't-
at the leisure.
will
What did you say? I couldn't hear what you said.
Appoints.
Appoints.
Well, I'm sorry.
appoint the chairs and co-chairs of committee. Okay,
This is one motion with, and pick up, and you vote for A, B, or C.
okay, so that's good. Okay.
Can you go over them again?
Okay, so number one will be the chair, committee members elect their own chairperson and the chair, and those chairpersons will select their own co-chair. That's number one. Number two, committees will nominate the chairs of each committee, subject to approval by the chair of the board. After 90 days of service, committee chairs may be removed by a vote of the committee, subject to approval of the chair of the board. And by chairs, we mean chairs and co-chairs. So she's saying committees will nominate the chairs and co-chairs of each committee, subject to approval by chair of the board. After 90 days of service, committee chairs will be removed by vote of the committee, subject to approval by chair of the board. There you go.
It might be good to always say committee chairs as opposed to
Committee
board
chair.
chairs, board chair, so there's a distinction.
Right,
And
All right.
no need for.
right, so it would be like
clarification.
if the committee chair
Yeah,
who is appointed after 90 days is not the right fit, then it will be able to be removed by the
Board chair?
board
Board
chair.
chair, right.
Well, it says by the committee.
By
Well,
the
the
chair of the
The
board.
committee is already asking for it, so it's
Yeah.
kind of
But
understood.
then what if she says no? Then we're status quo.
No, because the committee would,
It says subject to approval
This
by
is-
chair of the board.
This, no, well, she says,
On both. of them.
subject to approval by the chair of the board. Yeah.
So if we get
That's her,
you know,
that's her
in
proposal.
ethics,
That's her proposal.
so then that's, I mean, it's, there's no redress there, there's no recourse. If the
That's her
person,
proposal.
That's correct.
if the person is 90 days in and the committee doesn't want them, they can vote to remove that chairperson. But the removal is also subject to the approval by the chair of the board.
That's our motion.
That's her,
That's
that's
our
her
motion.
motion. That's her motion. We're
That's
not-
why-
that's democratic.
If you want
I
to
mean,
make a
it
different
should
one,
be.
that,
It just should, that's.
you want, Miguel, I hate this,
No, it's
You-
not the status quo.
you want,
No, I was just
I
saying.
can do it for
yeah.
later, other time, I guess.
not for this, not,
I'm not.
For this one.
not for this meeting, for the bylaws.
Yeah,
Right.
You know what, if it doesn't do it, you make another motion.
Sure.
You go to.
I've made a few here and there.
Okay,
Okay,
all right, so we're leaving it at that, and
okay.
I make a motion
Wait,
that,
all right, the third one is one that I put, because this is when we
Yeah,
first
and that-
started out.
This week, I don't know why.
We
Right,
did bylaws, corrections and overhauls once or twice a year. And we dealt with any, we did it like in October and in June. In June, one of those months, we did an overhaul, because there are a lot of errors in here and things that have changed and need to be changed. So we would go through it with a fine tooth comb, and that would be one meeting. And the other meeting would deal with amendments. So we wouldn't have to have it every 5 minutes. You know what I mean?
or every month,
Every
you're right,
month, or, so we would kind of, and it would slow things down, because I gotta tell you, that this is the reason why the Constitution isn't changed every 5 minutes, because it would cause chaos. You can't constantly change your rules, constantly. So it slows it down a bit. And I think that's a good thing. Like, we have in the Constitution, we have to go to all the states. It has to be 2/3. It's a big process, because you can't just constantly change your rules, because it's chaotic. So that's why I put that in.
and
It could be 3, but it shouldn't be every single month where there's a proposal and a meeting and a proposal and a meeting, or 10 proposals and a meeting, so.
Malcolm is saying you can
Right.
propose a change to the Constitution at any time as long as you have the necessary votes.
Right, well, we have just the majority and it's chaotic.
right,
That's my
it
opinion.
should be more than just a simple majority,
Yeah.
maybe a 2/3 vote.
That's
It's
what I
against the
thought.
city charter.
I know, that's
Right.
exactly right. So that's right.
Right.
So,
I was just
All right,
told to
Miguel.
bring up a new bylaw change next month. I can, like it.
Well, you bring it up and you have to make that motion to the chair, and then she sends it to the bylaws.
board,
But it-
and-
Like, and we're
Okay,
gonna look
I
at,
mean, obviously the Constitution isn't changed every other
Right.
month, but there are laws that are made and changed every day in Congress, and we're not the founding fathers, I'm sorry.
right, and we're not being paid
It's,
the big
I
bucks.
realize that, but I also wanted to, to submit that the first 6 bylaws changes that I proposed, that was in 2 months, and they all passed unanimously. So I mean, if I feel like if there's something that should be changed, then I shouldn't have to wait 6 months to do it.
Well, maybe it'd be more, maybe it could be every other month or something like that,
Yeah.
like.
Or once every
month.
3 months.
I just thought like
Yeah.
twice a year is a little
Yeah, I put that in
Restrictive.
restrictive, but how about, how many months do we have?
4 times a year.
4 times, 4 times a year, how's that? 4?
We
We
don't-
have 10 months. So if there's 10 months, it's 4 times a year? That's
That's every,
Trien-
what is that?
Triennial?
That's
Well,
what I'm saying.
biannual is twice a year,
So there are 10 meetings.
quadrennially.
Okay,
so we don't,
So if there are 10 meetings, okay, let's do the math, 10 meetings.
3 times.
They have to, the proposals gotta be put in writing to the chair. The chair brings it to the full board, and then it goes to committee. That's what's in the bylaws.
right.
So then,
That would have to be changed to when,
Then it has to
it
be-
doesn't actually say when the meetings are, so we can have the meetings whenever we want.
on,
right, but
So
it
we
can't
have-
be every month where it's just to balance out, like, if we're only discussing bylaws, our focus of dealing with
Community.
priorities gets
True.
destabilized. So if we can balance that out,
What do you say, 3 times a year, 4 times?
I
a
said
year?
three.
I mean, it's my thing, so I'll change to whatever.
By this discussion about destabilizing
It's
with
destabilizing,
how?
constantly changing the rules of destabilizing.
I think that part of the issue is that when you come into a system that is somewhat flawed and you're trying to improve it,
By whose,
then,
that's your opinion.
but
Right, and that's
Well,
why there's a democratic.
that's why this.
That's why it's a democratic process Because if we think it's unfair, we should be able to, by a majority rule, change it.
Okay,
You know,
so 4 times a year.
Everything-
Chairing, so I'm gonna say 4 times a year.
Four times.
I'll say 4 times a
We
year.
haven't had any bylaw change since I've been on the board.
You just said that.
If you look at the history, if you go onto the website,
May.
there's been changes
March.
every year.
March was the last one.
But if you look at the history, if you go on there, and there have been changes to the bylaws every year. Okay, there have been some major ones, some minor ones, etc., but not
Not
all
a
of them.
complete
Not
overhaul.
Overhaul, I mean, yeah, because it's a time issue. I mean, you don't
I'm
want to
just saying.
spend all your time focusing on bylaws and not on serving the community with the things that are priorities.
I vehemently disagree.
I'm sorry.
Sure.
That's the opinion.
So,
It's,
sorry, I didn't mean to.
I feel like whether something, I think the frustration is that we're newer and have suggested changes
But you
that
just,
aren't like crazy.
you just said you got 6 changes made.
What's that?
You just said that you gave 6 changes.
Yeah.
And then,
All passed
so you
the
said,
full board.
right, but
You
you
know,
said
unanimous.
nothing was done, but you had 6 changes.
No, I'm saying that I'm saying that, for instance, every twice a year I don't feel that any of my bylaw changes destabilized the board in any way, shape, or
Maybe
form.
I used the,
I think it made it better for a lot of people. A lot of people, everybody agreed unanimously, every single one that I put through. And we haven't had one fail since I've been on the board.
Normally we don't.
So, I mean, I feel like destabilization may be too strong, but still, I feel like if there's something, and there's always something that comes up that has to be a bylaw change. In every meeting somewhere, something. And so I feel like, condensing that into maybe a every other month meeting or 3 times, 4 times, whatever you guys, I'm not on the committee, but I feel like that
Twice a year is too restricted.
twice a year is
Agree with you. I'm
And
just saying, I
particular-
put that in.
as a
lot
part of a conversation.
Yeah.
And then
Tweaked.
I mean, even when it's discussed here and everything, by the time it actually gets enacted and everything, some people might be off the board that, already that suggested it.
So, okay, I would say 4, I mean, or would every other month be the similar
That'll be 5
That would be
times.
5 times, but I mean, so it would be every other month
But certain months may be harder for people to meet, like in November.
or December around.
Or December around
Well,
Christmas.
December, we don't,
Oh, we don't, right?
So that would be
usually
normal,
it's
that would be 4 times.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
4
4 times.
So let's do 4 times and then, because it's a non-standing committee. But
Yeah, and if there isn't any.
If it's a 4, well, yeah, and
Yeah.
even if it's standing committee, but 4 times a year would mean that we could be a standing committee without being burdensome. For the committee member, we could deal with committee stuff, community stuff, rather than, all this.
I'm also playing devil's advocate, so
What?
I just wanted to.
All right, so 4 times a year would be good, and then again, if there are no bylaws,
Then we don't have a
then we
meeting.
don't have a meeting. Right, so I'm gonna say 4 times a year.
Right, and next month we will meet and,
There are other,
Veronica Castro's
right, and there are other,
recommendation will be one of the first things we're gonna discuss, and she is here. And that deals with, ethics and discipline and conflict of interest and all that. So,
all right, and there are other bylaws, that, we did this chronologically, except for I think maybe sanitation and environmental protection. But we did it chronologically, so we took the earliest ones and we said, we were trying to do this as a new committee.
and I was
gotta give us a
away,
break.
and then I was sick.
He was away and we lost our lawyer who did a lot of the, working. And then, so we did chronological. So yours was first, mine was second, I think, and Naomi's was third, something like that.
Yeah.
And now we're gonna deal with the other ones the next time we meet. Now, I don't know if it's gonna be every other one, but whatever it is, the next time, and we can devote more time to it if we have, you know, we spread it out a bit.
Things will get done,
Yeah,
but you have to take into consideration
So then.
4 times a year.
times a year.
Okay, so that's it. So that's
Thank you.
gonna be, that
Joanne,
should be a
do you
yes.
know which ones? Because I
Offhand.
still have like 2 others that came, I believe, before Veronica's.
Let me,
Well, that would be, whatever chronological it is, you know. No, it's not here.
no,
No.
It's okay, it's okay.
We have your email, so we know which is.
Yeah, that's fine.
All right. So. So that's it. All right, so anyway, so then I guess I gotta make another motion. Proposed bylaw amendments should only be reviewed 4 times a year. Is that a second?
I second it.
Okay, and now to vote? All right. How about the other one? Did we take a complete vote on that as far as 1, 2, and 3? Did we do that? A, B, and C?
Yeah.
We did that. Okay.
Can you say that?
Okay.
That's one motion.
But would we vote on it?
Yes.
Did we? Okay. All right, so that's it then. We are good? Gallery session?
Today,
Do we have anyone for the
do
gallery?
we have anybody
session?
from the gallery? I guess not. All right.
Yeah,
Oh, you're not the gallery. Okay.
what?
I
Sorry.
know.
It's the,
Sorry. Is this a gallery session?
Wait, hold on.
Yeah, hold on. Yes. Who's speaking?
Roxanne Delgado, I'm sorry, I was away from the meeting was running. Oh, has gallery session started yet?
Yes, it
Yes.
just started.
Yes,
it's
I'd like
not-
to speak.
Kidding.
I'd like
Oh,
to
wait a
speak,
minute. Let me
please.
hold on a minute. 2
Hold
minutes.
on, please.
You're
I
doing
have
it?
my phone. Okay, good. You don't have your phone? No,
I got it. I'll do
okay, thank you.
Hold on a
Right.
second. 30-second one, yes,
Right.
reset. Go.
Siri, set timer for 2 minutes.
I got it, I'm doing this.
All right, go ahead. Go.
Mr. Gallo, you can hear.
Ms. Delgado, go ahead.
Yes, are you able to hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, because I just received. All right, I'm here because unfortunately I was not able to attend the ethics committee. And sadly, there was a lot of misrepresentation of a chat that was done on April of this year of this bylaws committee. So I'd like to request a copy of that chat and for you to disseminate that chat to all the members of the leadership committee, because that chat was nothing wrong with that chat, and for someone to justify offensive behavior that was done in that meeting on April 23rd and say that the chat triggered someone to behave in a very offensive manner was appalling. So I'm not going to go into details, but I would like that chat, because that chat was not provided to the members of that ethics committee, and they were saying things that were not correct, false, and misrepresenting it just to, I guess, give their friend a free pass, and that's not fair. But misread something I put in the chat room that was nothing. Someone said it was disgusting or degrading, something like that. It was not. That was completely false. I already spoke to someone to provide me with that chat as well at the BP's office, because you could have your opinion, but you cannot make false allegations towards someone just to justify your own bad behavior. That's not right. That's really not right. I do have legal recourse if I like to take someone. We might consider that. I'm not making any threats, but you could not like me or not, but you cannot make false allegations towards me just to justify your own behavior. So please, so I'll make this short. My request is to provide that chat to myself, April 2023, and also provide it to the leadership meeting, because that chat was not available to the ethics committee, which I was not able to attend because first I didn't realize that would be discussed. No one informed me that my name would be brought up so much while mine being invited to be present there. And second, I had another commitment that I had to unfortunately attend. So I thank you for your time and have a good night.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. So she wants these minutes.
Are they the chat for the bylaws? Was that the chat for the bylaws?
It was.
Yes, it was a bylaws meeting, April 2023.
Okay,
All righty, we're
Thank
just.
you.
okay. All right. Is
All
that
right, anyone else? Is there
Cynthia.
anyone else? Well, Roger was started and then he gave it over, so he goes first.
So, just looking on the most current bylaws, I think it's April 2020.
Yeah, that's the one, yeah.
Section, it's page 7, but it's, Article 5, committees. I had a question about the paragraph under non-standing committee. It just says a description of each of the standing committees outlined in the general areas of concern is attached to the appendix to the bylaws. And the second sentence is the community board by a majority vote may create and dissolve such additional standing committees as it deems necessary or advisable. By community board, does that mean the chairs and co-chairs?
I think it was the whole board.
Full board.
So it's just the full board.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah, because the other way, it wouldn't be fair. It's just
but it's not a
Yeah.
chair or a co-chair that's deciding, it's
the whole
the
board,
whole.
The whole board.
all of us.
Yeah.
All right. Is there any other business? Yes, Cynthia.
So I just wanted to express my concern over the amount of time that it took for this committee to finally meet again. Bear with me, bear with me, bear with me. This is not, I just wanted to say that, we met back in April. There were items to bring forth in May. It didn't happen because the chair was not there. There are issues with individuals chairing multiple committees, which is one of my
Yeah.
bylaw amendments. We'll get to that another day. But on July 21st, there was an email indicating that David had resigned. Then on August 8th, an email that David remains chair. Then on August 24th, another email regarding my emails from July 7th, July 20th, August 20th. Today, the website still shows David, Sandy, and Joanne as members of the committee. There's no mention of Ken, and now we are finding out today that
Brand new.
Eliezer is on the committee, which is fine. I don't have an objection to that. However, we are supposed to, the bylaws say it. It's in the bylaws that there should be notification when there are people removed and taken off and appointed to committees. And it's not appropriate.
Well, I don't know if that's in the bylaws.
Yes, it is.
Right.
But I know with David, he was hemming and hawing. He said one thing to one person, I think by September 17th or something.
No, it
like
was the 26th, actually,
something
what
the
we
20
got, it
Right.
was
Then he
definite
finally
that he
said,
wasn't coming
"That's
back.
it."
Definite, definite.
That's it.
So we were
And now-
like really trying to keep
Right.
it on, honestly.
And then we started,
So
we had to get things
Then-
together.
we did it.
I had
fast.
family up. I had to go
Right.
down to North
And I'm
Carolina.
I'm not.
But we got it done.
And
I'm
then
not
the-
taking that away from you. What I am getting at is that then September 21st, at leadership, it's suddenly revealed that Sandy is chair. All it took, we have Jeremy on staff. We have our chair who sends emails. All it would have taken was a simple email to know, especially when I am sending emails asking for certain things, saying we need to have a meeting, we need to address certain things. We have new members coming onto the board. We should try to get things in order. And then there's this back and forth with so-and-so's the chair. No, she's not the chair. David's still the chair. Da, 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 da. And,
That,
you know,
that's
correct.
that-
That's the way it happened.
that's the
Point
way it's
taken.
moving.
Hopefully, we have rectified the situation and we are trying our best.
thank you,
And I must thank Ken and Ellie.
thank you.
Yes, Bob, and then
One short note thing. This is the only board that I believe that has an executive committee of just the officers and a leadership committee of the officers and the committee chairs. Well, just about every other board has only an executive committee that has the officers and the committee chairs.
a combined one group.
Yeah, I think at the next bylaw meeting, you should look at that, because there is really no reason to have two separate committees like that, where every other board has only one. And again, it's going into your municipal, services committee that trying to cut down on meetings.
So maybe somebody will propose a bylaw change to that effect.
Right.
They kind of run into each other anyway, right?
Yeah.
They really do.
Yeah.
I mean, that's why we
Yeah.
kind of.
Yeah.
The suggestion is,
6, 7 o'clock.
Yeah,
okay, thank you.
Good point. Thank you.
okay, so.
Um,
We have
any, Yes, I make a motion to adjourn. It is 8:51.
Any old
Yeah.
business, any old business?
Oh,
maybe-
any old business? I think we
Oh,
covered
I think
old.
We covered old and new, but if anyone has
Together.
anything to say.
Sorry.
no.
And the new business is what Bob made a recommendation, which we will kind of mention tomorrow.
Okay. We could. And
So we made a motion to
and
adjourn.
it
Yes.
was, what did you say it was?
I said 8:51.
8:51.
Okay, meeting is adjourned.
Meeting is
Thank you.
adjourned. You're gonna call Jeremy and.
I will.
All right, thank you.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
everybody.
Thank you all for
Thank
coming.
you all.
I deeply appreciate it.